Hi, this is Becky Nunn, and I'm on location here at Fusion Beads. I'm going to teach you how to use the Nunn Design Resin with the Nunn Design Resin kit. First of all, I just want to say I'm still learning a lot about resin myself, so I'm just going to teach you everything that I know, and we're going to continue to learn together. First of all, when you purchase the Nunn Design Resin kit, you'll receive this 8-ounce kit of Part A and Part B of the resin. You'll also receive some mixing cups, some stir sticks, some little tops, and some instructions. These are all of the items that come available inside of this kit. For the life of me, I still don't use these, mostly because I have to clean them when I pour the resin out, so I tend to not use these and just wipe the tips of these clean after I've opened and closed and poured. And you'll see me do that in a little bit. But for these, I tend not to use. You might find your own system with those later, but I haven't figured one out. So I'm going to cover 3 different items in working with the Nunn Design Resin. One is going to be prepping your workstation. The second one is going to be prepping your findings. And the third one is going to be mixing your resin. It's really important first to prep your resin station before you get into actually mixing. Trust me, I've done it many times. Some of the things that I have consistently got into the habit of is setting up my station in the exact same way every time. So some of those things are, is you're going to want to make sure that your resin is brought to room temperature and that your room is anywhere between 68 degrees and 72 degrees. So if you are just starting your day out, you might want to designate a certain area where you turn the heat on and you keep it at a 72 degrees. Or you might want to also put your resin into a bath of warm water and bring it up to 72 degrees. When we're working at Nunn Design on our art days, we have the bathroom that we designate. We tape down a piece of plastic on the countertop. We open up the window so we have good ventilation, and we put on a heater so the room is always at room temperature. And the first person in the room puts the resin in a bath of warm water just to bring it up to room temperature. Other things that you're going to want to do is you're going to have your resin cups all ready to go, your stir sticks. I have an additional size that was outside, or in addition to this stir stick that comes in the set. You'll also need to have some Q-tips and some toothpicks and also some rubbing alcohol. I have my phone here because I have a timer on here, so when I'm stirring the resin I can time it. And I have business cards. I'll show you what I'm going to be doing with these, but this makes it easy for me to move the findings around without touching them once I have poured my resin. And these 2 blocks that I have over here, this creates a nice little gap so that I can put things like earrings inside there and create a nice flat surface, or even a ring so that I can create a nice flat surface like such. So I have 2 blocks. I have completely taped them off with tape. This allows the resin to just flow right onto the tape if I have some overflow, and I often have overflow. And it makes it really easy for me to remove the piece with the resin overflow. The resin cleans up really nicely and easily off of the blocks. And every now and then I'll change out my tape so I have a nice, flat, smooth, clean surface. So that's another little tip that you might have. So now we have our resin station kind of all set up. So all the things that you have here, I do it consistently every time, and I have this checklist going on through my head as I'm working. Other things that I have handy, you can't see this, but I have wet wipes already in my lap. I'm always have wet wipes handy and ready to go outside of the container because it's really hard to be pulling them out of the thing when you're kneading them. So I just always have those really handy and ready to go. The next step, besides after we have prepped our workstation, is we're going to prep our findings. So there's a couple things that I can tell you about this. Is resin does not like dirt and it doesn't like moisture. So it's a really good idea to scrub down your findings with some alcohol. I'm just using regular alcohol, and I use a Q-tip, and so I'll take my findings, and before I pour or mix any resin or do anything like that, I'm making sure that all of my findings are very clean and they're free of dirt. You can also use alcohol wipes if you want to. The Nunn Design products are oxidized after they're plated with the 24 karat gold. That's what gives it this nice antique look, but sometimes it has little excess of that oxidization inside of the bezels that gets trapped inside of there. So you want to use your Q-tip with a little alcohol rubbing onto it, take off the back, and then you can place it right inside the piece here, and that's going to give it a nice flat surface. Also, you might want to check just the insides of the bezels right here to see if there is any dirt along there, and also the top surfaces. Just wipe those nice and clean and have those ready to go. These guys, just use the alcohol, go down into the crevices and clean that all nice and clean. We have another ring here. You can go ahead and just use a little bit of alcohol on side of that. So prep all of your findings using the alcohol and cleaning them all up, and that will give you great results. So on some of these pieces, they don't have a back. So let me show you how you can prep your findings so that you can use open back bezels with resin. To use the open back bezels with resin, you want to put a piece of packing tape on the back side. The packing tape needs to be clear and non-muddled. I'll try to find you an example. This is what you want to be trying to avoid. Can you see that? It has a little mottling or a little mark on there. That will actually show up on your resin when you release it or pull it off the back once the resin is cured. So you try to find a nice area on the piece of packing tape that doesn't have that mottling. Pull off a piece of the tape, cut it, place it on your work surface, and then place your open back pieces and press down and move back and forth. Note that I also kept my fingers away from that surface because my fingerprints will also show up on the resin, on the tape. Once you have your piece burnished down, you use a pair of scissors. So you can see there's a little goober here and a little goober there. You can just go ahead and trim away. I like to use only one piece on a piece of packing tape at a time. It just helps it so that when you're working with the resin that you don't have the pieces of packing tape get stuck together or on your fingers. And so just put each little piece on its own piece of packing tape. And then as you see here, I have some cards. I like to use a very thick, heavy cardstock that has a nice glossy surface. That also makes it really easy for me to put the pieces onto this. And I tend to work on a very small area, typically my kitchen table, when I'm working, and I can move this around very easily without disturbing the resin. So before you even have poured, you have prepared multiple pieces with your packing tape and put them onto the back and burnished them down. This one I still need to do. All of your other pieces like this, they will also go onto a business card, and all of your pieces will be ready, and you'll be ready to mix your resin. Now that we have prepped our workstation, we prepped our findings, we're ready to mix our resin. What you want to do is you'll have your part A and your part B, and you have your mixing cup. You can see that I'm working on a piece of plastic. I usually have a piece of plastic over my whole workstation so that I can protect any surface that I'm working on. Other things that I have gotten the habit of doing is I'll always have a second cup here that I can put my toothpicks in, and so that I'm just having a common place where those toothpicks can lie. Even these little mixing things will lay inside of there so that I don't have pools of resin on my work surface. They're always within this little cup. So I'll have an extra little cup ready to go for when I'm ready to work with the resin. To mix the resin, you'll want to have an exact 1-to-1 ratio. That 1-to-1 ratio has to be 1 tablespoon to 1 tablespoon. And this is actually a volume thing, it's not a weight thing. So you'll want to put 1 tablespoon of part A and then 1 tablespoon of part B in the same cup. And it has to be this full cup in order for the Nunn Design resin to activate properly and for you to have great results with the resin. So now that my resin is brought up to room temperature, 68 to 72 degrees, I'm ready to start to pour. I have my glasses on so that I can see, and I typically get down right next to the resin on eye level so that I can actually see exactly when I hit that 1 tablespoon mark. And I start to pour, and also make sure that your piece is right on a flat surface. Then I start to pour the resin into the cup. So I have gotten pretty good at knowing exactly when to start lightening up my pour. So I'm just kind of drizzling now and waiting until I get to that 1 tablespoon mark. And right when I get to that point, boom, I hit it. I'll rotate the bottle like that and stop the pour. And I use my wet wipe to clean off that surface before I put my cap back on, so I have a nice clean surface, and then I'll put my lid on. Rotating my wet wipe so that I don't get that resin onto my hand, I'll take the part B. Pour up to that 2 tablespoon mark this time. The part B is much thinner than the part A, so I'm just drizzling it right till I get to that 1 tablespoon mark. Drip, boom, I'm right there. Take your wet wipe, clean off the surface of your container, put the lid on, and now we're done with that part of the resin. Now that you have your resin all ready, you're going to set your timer on your phone for 2 minutes, and you're going to stir this resin with your stir stick. You're going to gently stir it around, scraping the sides. A habit that I have gotten into is I typically always touch the start button with this finger here because I know that more than likely I will not have any resin that gets on that finger, and I don't want it on my phone. So it's just another little habit that I've gotten into. So as you can see, right when you start stirring the resin together, it'll turn into kind of a look like this, where the two parts, part A and B, are mixing together. And by the time our 2 minutes is up, hopefully that those two, there won't be any more of that colorizing going on. It'll be nice and clear. I have found that sometimes it takes people longer than 2 minutes of mixing to get to that clear spot, but that is your ultimate goal. So the 2 minutes is really just to give you an idea of the time that it's going to take for these two to blend together if you're stirring. While I'm stirring, I'm going slow, and I'm scraping the sides of my cup, and I'm also scraping the bottom with the end of this stir stick to make sure that all of my parts A and B are blending together. Other habits that I've gotten into is making sure that I wipe the sides of my stir stick on my cup, because once I put that stir stick inside of this, it was then contaminated with the separated parts A and B, and that has thrown off batches of resin in the past. So I make sure that I wipe my stir stick as well as scrape the sides. So I'm going slow and gentle, and as you can see, there are bubbles that are forming inside of there. Those will dissipate, so don't panic. Just keep on mixing together. And there was my timer. But as you can see, I'm pretty darn close. I'm pretty close. So I'm just going to stir for maybe another little bit. I'm not doing it here, but it's a good idea to protect your hands and wear gloves and not get any of this resin onto your hands when you're mixing or when you're working with the resin. All right. So that looks like it's pretty well ready to go. I will wipe the sides of my stir stick, double check. That looks good. And this is what I was talking about. I'll place this right inside of that cup so that I don't have to worry about any of that resin getting on any of my surface areas. This now has a little bit of bubbles inside of there, so I will let that sit for probably 5 minutes, and all of those bubbles, or a lot of those bubbles, will rise to the surface, and they will dissipate by just letting it sit for about 5 minutes. So that is pretty much the basics for how to mix the Nunn Design Resin. Again, great preparation of your workstation, great preparation of all your findings and setting them up ready to go before you even mix this resin, and then the actual mixing of the resin. If you do all of these steps properly, you should have a life of working. This pot life, or the amount of time that this will be good for you to pour into bezels, can range anywhere between half an hour and 45 minutes. It depends really on the temperature of the room. It depends on the humidity. It has so many different factors, but that's why you want to have your station all set up and your bezels to go, because you're going to want to use every moment of your time once you have mixed your resin. This is Becky Nunn with Nunn Design, teaching you how to use the Nunn Design Resin here at Fusion Beads.